Hi everyone, welcome to our 7th episode of Chongqing Opportunity. I'm your host, James Alexander. In this episode, we will take a closer look at poverty alleviation through industrial development in Chongqing, which has followed the national guiding concept that lucid waters and lush mountains are a source of wealth. It is this principle that has driven rural revitalization, which in turn has helped bring prosperity to formerly impoverished and isolated communities. We will also take a closer look at the industrial development of rural areas and how they have taken the opportunity to transform their lives for the better. There are two main ways to interpret the principle that lucid waters and lush mountains are a source of wealth. From an ecological point of view, this focuses on the central idea that a pristine natural environment with a high forest coverage rate, clear lakes and rivers, fresh air, abundant wildlife and healthy soils. In order to achieve this end, polluting factories have been torn down and replaced with green landscapes, such as where the Xingyuan chemical plant once stood in Sanjian Township in Fengdu. Shanty buildings, where people once lived, have either been renovated or taken down, with new exteriors decorated to blend with the natural surroundings. Sanitation facilities have been installed in towns and villages to avoid polluting the land and waterways, while fishing and hunting have been stopped to restore the abundance of wildlife. Rural communities that were highly isolated not many years ago are a more attractive location to live or visit. From an economic point of view, the principle that lucid waters and lush mountains are a source of wealth generally points to the almost limitless potential of green agriculture and rural tourism, the two main aspects of rural revitalization that have brought about the incredible transformation of the countryside. One of the best examples I witnessed last year was in Qinglong village of Yubei district. Only a few years ago, the village was poor and isolated. However, like in all counties around Chongqing, the road infrastructure has been completely modernized, so that every household has convenient transport links, which allows rural produce to be delivered quickly to customers, and tourists to travel easily from major urban centres. Poverty alleviation is really aimed at guaranteeing a minimum standard of living, whilst building a foundation where rural communities can finally take the road to prosperity into their own hands. Government institutions and private investors have joined hands with rural people to establish cooperatives that offer dependable employment, shares, and dividends to locals who contribute their energy and land into the projects. Famous agricultural products of Chongqing include crisp plums, peaches, navel oranges, black fungus, honey, mushrooms, prickly ash, and much, much more. Government and private investors make the initial purchases of trees, infrastructure, warehouses, distribution lines, and perhaps most eye-catchingly, modern farming machinery that includes state-of-the-art tractors and drones. I still remember the impressive sight when we first arrived in Qinglong and witnessed the local farmers tending to the hillside orchards so casually and competently as they drove among the rows of trees in sparkling new tractors, while another expertly controlled the largest drone I had ever seen in my life, which he was using to spray the crops. However, there is one more vital step to making rural revitalization the great success it is now, and that is the phenomenon of e-commerce. In the early days, farmers had plenty of high-quality produce, but too little access to consumer markets nationwide. Nowadays, every town and village has their own e-commerce centre and platform. The government and other investors help the farmers create a brand name for their produce, then assist them with quality assurance certification so that consumers nationwide can feel at ease when deciding to make a purchase. Now, orchard management teams and farmers are familiar with e-commerce platforms. It is now possible for orchards to receive and process orders quickly in real time and ship their produce to all corners of the country. Additionally, applications allow rural producers to easily conduct online promotional broadcasts to showcase their products, and buyers can make a purchase on their mobile phones with barely a few taps of their fingers. Another aspect of rural revitalization is the phenomenon of homestays, guest houses, and country entertainment. This has always been a popular pastime in China, but the successful poverty alleviation drive means that urban dwellers have ever more choice from a greater number of idyllic destinations. Chongqing County was once by far the most remote county of Chongqing, with many communities isolated by imposing mountains, rushing rivers, limited infrastructure, and relative scarcity of arable land. On a 4-day trip last year across Chongqing, I visited guest houses in picturesque valleys that now attract tourists in their droves, particularly in the summer when the elevation offers a getaway from the heat and humidity of Chongqing urban areas, but also in the winter when tourists come to satisfy their yearning for snowy wonderlands. Many guest houses offer unique design concepts that offer all modern conveniences and network access, whilst also retaining their traditional rustic appeal. In many cases, the local government conducted renovations on their properties to make them safe and attractive, and some took advantage of low-interest loans and subsidies to get them started in business. In the case of Mrs. Shi, her household can earn in excess of $15,000 a year, more than enough to live a comfortable life in the counties. Finally, the formerly isolated corners of Chongqing Municipality are being quickly integrated into the network of high-speed rail and even airports. In the case of Chongqing, where a return journey from Kang Valley to the county seat required at least 2 days, the current 6.5-hour drive over modern roads from Chongqing urban area will soon be reduced to less than 2 hours by high-speed rail. Meanwhile, the formerly impoverished counties of Wushan and Wulong now have airports conveniently located to their main cities and key attractions, so that in the future, ever more visitors and experience the rural hospitality, thus bringing ever greater levels of prosperity to the once impoverished areas of Chongqing. Today's programme will end here. Please stay tuned with iChongqing, as our next episode for Chongqing Opportunity will be about smart factories. I'm your host, James Alexander. Thank you for watching, and see you again next time.